Hello, welcome in the new point 3.3. In the earlier point, you have studied about why do we need constitution. Now here, directly we are looking making of the Indian constitution. We all know about our country, India, and what great difficulties have been faced by the country and countrymen when India got independence in 1947. The country was divided in the different nations on the basis of religion. So there was the difficulty, the lakhs of people were killed by both sides, by Pakistan and by India. So this was the traumatic situation for the Indians. So it was not easy, traumatic, shocking situation. It was not easy task for them. Accept this all task, accept these changes. This was one difficulty. Another difficulty was there in the earlier period. Indians were subjects to the British, but now they are coming up as the citizens. So that formation was also needing time to shape themselves. Next, the question of the princely states. One hand, British made partition of the country on the religious ground, on the religious base. But on the other hand, to the princely states, they kept freedom, whether they want to join to the India or whether they want to join to the Pakistan or they can remain free, independent also. So merging these princely states in the India was very difficult task and it had done by the Indian leaders. There was anxiety in the mind of leaders, those who formed this constitution. In future, what would happen with this country? How this huge country, how this diverse society will live together? But we got success, and we are now living in the harmonious society. Making of the Indian Constitution. Despite all these difficulties, there was one big advantage for the makers of the Indian Constitution, that the formation, the concession, what is the Indians did not have to create a consensus. But the consensus, general agreement about what a democratic India should look like. This was shaped during the freedom fight, freedom movement. Much of this consensus had developed during the freedom struggle. Our national movement was not merely a struggle against the foreign rules, it was also a struggle to regenerate our country and transform our society and politics through the national fight, freedom fight. We just not fought with the foreign enemies or only with the British. We have studied last year history. What were the fields the Indians were fought? The social and political equality also they understand in this period only. So their minds already shaped for the democratic country. There were sharp differences or opinions within the freedom struggle about the path India should take after independence. Such differences exist even today, but some basic ideas had come to be accepted by almost everyone. Some differences were there, but it always remains. The process of forming constitution began during the national struggle for freedom. When national struggle was going on, that time the process to form the Indian constitution is started. First draft of the constitution in 1928, then in 1931. This was formed by the Motilal Nehru and other 8 leaders. Demanded in the draft, the demands also in the draft about the universal adult franchise. These people drafted the constitution, this draft. In that draft, they demanded for the universal adult franchise, right to vote to all, social justice, right to freedom and liberty. So this was the not new experience for the Indians to form the constitution. During the freedom struggle, also there was a try to form the constitution. As far back as in 1928, Motilal Nehru and 8 other Congress leaders drafted a constitution for India. In 1931, the resolution at the Karachi session of the Congress of the Indian National Congress dwelt on how independent India constitution should look like. Both these documents were committed to the inclusion of universal adult franchise, right to freedom and equality, and to protecting the rights of minorities. So these concepts were already accepted by the Indians. The Constitution of Independent India, the some basic values were accepted by all leaders much before the Constitution Assembly. Before the forming the Constituent Assembly, these principles were accepted by the Indians. So this draft had given them to form the new constitution. After that, the participation in the provincial legislature helped Indians to framing their constitution. In the 1931, the legislature elections were taken place, and in these elections, the Indians were participated. It was not fully democratic. It's not 1931, it's 1937, sorry. The elections were held in 1937 to provincial legislatures and ministers all over British India. This was not fully democratic governments, but the experience gained by Indians in the working of the legislative institutions proved to be very useful for the country in setting up its own institution. When Indians were participated in this legislative government, these people got experience how could country should set up and how can country work. This helped them to form the new institutions of the India. That is why the Indian Constitution adopted many institutional details. That is why in the Indian Constitution the institutional details and procedures are involved because the Indian leaders were got experience with the provincial elections, provincial legislature elections. From us. The Indian leaders inspired by French Revolution. Many experiences were taken by the Indians. They used their experiences, knowledges to form the constitution. These Indian leaders inspired with the French Revolution, then British parliamentary system and Bill Rights of US. The French Revolution for the liberty, fraternity and equality. This French Revolution was used. Then parliamentary system. It is adopted by the from the British parliamentary and rights, the fundamental rights which is inspired by the US. So this knowledge helped to the Indians to make framing of their own constitution. They also learned socialism from the Russian Revolution. They were just not imitating, copying to the others. At each step, they were questioning whether this thing suited our country, whether this thing is suitable for our country. This is also thought by the Indians. All these factors contributed to the making of our constitution. So these were the main factors which are responsible or which given shape to the Indian constitution. In this part, we have studied the background, the thinking of the Indian leaders to form the constitution. In the next video, we will see the Constituent Assembly.